Mr. President.
The senator from New Hampshire.
Thank you. Mr. President, in my home state of New Hampshire and in communities across the nation, there is no greater public health and safety challenge than the fentanyl, heroin, and opioid crisis. Everywhere I go, I hear stories from people affected by this crisis. I hear inspiring stories from those in recovery who are tirelessly working to stay healthy and rebuild their lives. And I hear tragic stories from siblings, parents, and friends who have experienced the unimaginable pain of losing a loved one. The courage of people willing to share their stories is key to breaking down the stigma of addiction and pushing for solutions. This month, I saw reports that mothers in New Hampshire and in our neighboring state of Massachusetts are doing just that. These mothers have all lost their children to overdoses, but through their grief, they are fighting to ensure that other parents are spared from what they have endured. They are writing letters to the White House that are set to arrive on Valentine's Day, all enclosed with photos of the children they have lost. Their message is that more must be done to end this epidemic, and that more funding must be allocated to help those struggling. Their initiative is putting faces to this crisis and showing the White House that these lives lost are more than just numbers. One of the mothers said, quote, "We have broken hearts, so we want the president to see that." Mr. President, we can never thank the families who have lost loved ones enough for speaking out and for working tirelessly and courageously to try to prevent others from suffering as they have. We owe it to them to listen to their stories, but more importantly, we owe it to them to take stronger action. Mr. President, I'm encouraged by recent work in Congress to provide a significant increase in funding to combat this crisis. Over the past months, I've been pushing for more support for treatment, recovery, prevention, and law enforcement efforts. And the bipartisan agreement that passed last week included billions of dollars in additional resources, an important next step in strengthening our response. This is welcome news for states across the nation grappling with the challenges of this epidemic, and it will be critical that these new federal dollars are prioritized for states like New Hampshire that have been the hardest hit. I'll continue working to ensure that that happens. But even with this additional funding, we know that it will ultimately take a far greater investment to turn the tide of this horrible epidemic. Communities, law enforcement, and those struggling need our continued support and action. And members of both parties must continue to work together in order to make progress. Thank you.